What's up, everyone? Coach Ben podcast, episode 52, I believe. Something like that. So we are here in Arcadia, California. Let's see. Any changes, Jim? Anything new with you before we talk about our topic?
Man, my garage is getting cleaner.
All right, good.
My garage is getting cleaner, but let's go ahead and deep dive into this because we had a nice discussion about this as we were setting up. But you notified me about an article last night, and what it was is essentially some sort of political statements about various factions of the Gracie family, both past and present. And with that, the main takeaway, and I think we can both, this is going to be the meat of the discussion, is, okay, what was it saying, and what did it mean, and what is the purpose?
Right.
And I think with all of that, it takes critical thinking, because what that article did is it just kind of cast this net that I think, well, I'll just speak for me, that didn't really say anything. It was a pretty good long article, and I wouldn't even say that it was not factual. This person, whoever wrote it, seemed to have...
It was manipulative.
Yes.
It wasn't...
Yes. And how does, so getting into today's topic is, how is it manipulative, and what is the exploit of someone who's a manipulator? And that is, they exploit one's inability or their brand of critical thinking.
Right. Your inability to critically think right now is a huge problem. Not saying you, like anybody, I'm talking to anybody. It's just our problem as a society.
Humanity
Is the problem, is critical thinking, thinking critically about topics that that are important, that you want change in, or you want you kind of want to see for the truth, right? And that it takes critical thinking to get there. And you mentioned this article, so the article is about the Gracie family, and it started with the Gracie family, but this is where manipulation comes in if you don't understand critical thinking. First of all,
and before we get too deep into it, let's also lump into this critical thinking and nuance, because both are of equal importance. They both play a role.
That's one of the aspects of critical thinking, is understanding nuance and understanding complexity.
Yes,
things that are complex often have more than one truth. Right? There's multiple truths, and there's also multiple things that can even contradict each other in the same topic. Right? So, what started off as something that was critical to the Gracies, or specifically a handful of Gracies, if you read the article, it goes further, right? It goes into, it just started with a couple Gracies, also the family, also the grandfather. These are things. First of all, we keep talking about lacking critical thinking, right? This type of stuff is slander. You can't just paint a whole brush on an entire community. It starts with the Gracies, then it goes to the whole family, then it goes to martial arts gym owners and martial artists, everybody in the martial arts community, everybody in the Jiu-Jitsu community. And again, if you try to critique these types of articles, right, what'll happen is you will sometimes be attacked, right? And you have to be able to accept that attack and be able to think, okay, let me take what this person's saying, the facts, right, and then separate it from the intention, and then separate it from my own preconceived notions, and then make an objective and informed decision, right? These types of articles do not allow people to do that, because they are using sleight of hand. Sleight of hand. Anybody that read this article, what sleight of hand is when you see it. When you see, okay, it starts with this, but it ends with this, and by the way, by the end of it, the whole brush is painted.
Means this,
right? It's crazy,
right?
You cannot. I mean, you talked to me last night about this, and I was a lot more fired up. This might be one of these episodes where I go off I snap off
Coach
the hinges.
Ben, unhinged.
I've done this like 2 or 3 times, I think, on the podcast, Jim. But this is something that if I let the mentally insane take over, then I'm going to snap off the hinges, because this is just something that to me is wrong, and I can explain why, right?
So yeah, and then what we'll do, we'll just kind of, I like to frame this, that the consequences of the potential consequences of what this article does is that, yeah, it brings up historical fact, and current day climate. So it equals this, and that's it, right?
Right. It's a black and white.
So yeah,
thing.
it's a very black and white. So there's a lack of nuance and understanding, and I think what it does is it sets up toxic environments because, like you said, going to academy owners and so on and so forth. Oh, you're part of this Gracie family. Oh, then you must be.
I have an academy. I have a
Right.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy. We're already struggling. We don't need people to paint the entire community as, whatever the article said, far right extremist, whatever it is, far left extremist. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's wrong. It's not. Just thinking about it critically will help you realize this, and that's the topic that we're going to talk about. First of all, what is critical thinking, right? What is it? I think the important definition to have immediately is that it is the ability to acknowledge that you can be wrong, right? So thinking critically of your own thoughts, right? If you believe that you cannot be wrong, you are infallible, you cannot critically think because you can't criticize your own thoughts. So you probably will agree with everything that is out there that confirms your thoughts.
Yeah, you'll be a victim of confirmation bias.
That is one aspect of dynamic of critical thinking is logic. Is one of the most important things to me. It might not be important to everybody else, but to me, logic transcends humans. I think there is an aspect of logic that exists outside of human. It wasn't a human created thing. Like
it's something like universal
emotion,
law, commonly known as universal law, right?
Laws
that apply, like gravity.
Pretty much, but there are definitely human injected aspects of logic. I'll just put it this way. Logic, for the most part, when not used in a manipulative way, is as objective as we can get to a lot of topics, right? So having a grasp of logic, at least understanding what fallacies are out there that are common, you need to just know that part. That will help you critically think, right? So going back to the article, we mentioned black and white thinking, right? Black and white meaning not the color per se, but like one or the other,
on or off,
on
right?
or off,
binary thinking,
binary thinking. That is logic, right? That's a logical flaw, right? The black and white thinking, that is a fallacy. It's a bias, I believe. But either way, that's just one thing, right? So how do you develop critical thinking? This is something that it's taken me many years to develop. Understand logic, but mainly you need to have the humility to accept that you can be wrong. And if you do that, you have taken the biggest step toward critical thinking that I think you can take, because that humility right there will help you investigate the truth with an unbiased, a little more unbiased lens, right? One thing that I always try to tell people whenever I'm online and have to deal with these discussions with people that are kind of binary thinkers is that two things can be true simultaneously, right? Whatever happens, this one thing could be beneficial, and it can also be detrimental at the same time, right? So instead of using emotion and thinking, oh, well, it doesn't seem right to me, or this doesn't feel right, or using even empathy, I feel like is misguided, right? You shouldn't be using empathy to guide things. What should you use? Logic, critical thinking, reason, cost-benefit analysis, things that are more objective, things that will, in the long term, help the people you're actually trying to help, as opposed to, in the long term, as opposed to try to help somebody in the short term to please your feelings and maybe help them. But a lot of the times when you use empathy or when you use emotions, you tend to cause more harm than good in the long run, and this has been evidenced in many social endeavors. There's many things. I don't even need to bring them up. You just think about it, right? So this is the importance of critical thinking.
Yes, and I do want to highlight exactly what you just said, is that remember this. It's like, this is, first and foremost, this is a jiu-jitsu podcast, and there's plenty of applications in the jiu-jitsu realm that where this is very valuable, but the idea of this whole item that we're discussing is to don't enclose it just to the mats. Don't keep it just on the mats. You use this principle to move forward in life, goals, aspirations, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's open-mindedness. It's just having an open mind to the idea that you could be wrong. You don't want that to go crazy, right? You don't want to be so open-minded that you start entertaining every single theory there is in existence. But at the same time, you need to be open-minded enough to know that, look, what my thoughts are on this subject are what they are, and there's somebody else's thoughts. They may be correct, incorrect, I don't know, but I accept the ability that I could be wrong. Now, let me get to this article real quick, because I'm giving this article too much leeway here. I don't like it when people there's a difference between me and you not agreeing and being charitable in our disagreements and having good intentions, versus what I think this article is about, which is more about it comes from more of like a victimhood type of mindset, where it's like, look at what you're doing to me. So I disagree with the author, obviously, completely, right? But I don't give them the benefit of the doubt as I would give somebody like you, because this person has come from a frame of uncharitableness. So it was an unfair. They started the article with unfair comparisons and made connections that were, manipulative, harmful, toxic, ill-researched. There was an agenda behind this. And no, I'm not going to accept your disagreement with me and just say, oh, well, you have the right to your opinion in this case, because this is a different thing.
Yeah,
you have now entered a realm of you are causing harm to an entire community, and you need to have a good rebuttal against my rebuttal if you're going to keep propagating this mess. Mm-hmm. That's what I think about this specific article.
Yeah, so I think manipulative is actually probably the best way to describe it, because I was going to ask you, do you think it's disingenuous? But whether it is or isn't, I think manipulative.
It's really intellectually dishonest at best.
There you go.
So it was using aspects of good reason, jived with lies or false correlations.
I think the false correlations, because I don't think there were lies in it, but the false correlation and the disingenuous or the manipulative aspect.
Jim, when you say so here's another aspect of critical thinking, logic, right? False equivalence, comparing two things, thinking they're apples and apples, but it's actually apples and turnips, right? That happened many times in the article. So my thing with what you just said is this: it may not be a lie. The words, you could write an entire book and nothing in that book could be a lie, right? But you could leave the reader with
like a false
definition, sense, right? or a false sense of what that you're trying to convey. I could write a whole book and not mention whatever something being bad, right? I don't mention that something being bad. But then at the end of the book, you put the book down, you're like, well, that thing is bad and I'm forever going to hate it. It's possible I could do that.
Running sucks, right? Look at what it does to your hip joints, your knees, your ankles. Running sucks. And to really just dismiss all the benefits that running, right?
That's another similar. What you're describing is a little it's manipulation too. It's clickbait. Whenever you have a headline that's absolute, or it's very like it paints a broad brush onto, for example, an entire community of jiu-jitsu people. I've seen multiple headlines of this in different spaces of the web because they change the headline sometimes. And when you do that, that is a gross overgeneralization, right? So that's another aspect of critical thinking, that if you don't understand that, you might let this slide past you, like, that the headline says this, it must be true.
Man,
I didn't
say
read
that
the
again,
article.
because I think that is the key and the bottom line. If you allow yourself to go down this path,
Yeah.
that you are now armed with like a false narrative, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that's very important, because think about that. When you walk around life, and now off of this short read, off of this short article, to make decisions that
Yeah.
impact your life, I'm not going to go there because this article, it's like you're making decisions based off of
Things on
based off
this
of
thing.
faulty
This article's
premise.
on Yahoo. Imagine,
Oh, the coverage that they have.
right. Let's just say I own a Jiu-Jitsu academy, right? Let's just say in my city, 50 people read it, on Yahoo, right? Maybe one person would have signed up at a Jiu-Jitsu academy, but you know what? Because I'm going to relate all the martial arts community to far right extreme.
Especially,
Forget about
let's
it.
get more specific. I'm going to relate, jiu-jitsu, that's that Gracie family.
Yeah.
And those Gracie, I'm going to take Taekwondo.
Forget about Taekwondo or martial arts. Forget about martial arts. I'm just going to go play,
Play
softball.
soccer. Yeah, softball.
And that's where this article is
Yeah.
manipulative. And this is where
And that's how it affects all of us, right?
right. I'm
We do
going
need
to talk.
care.
I'm going to talk about something that's even more like people don't realize this, and I think this is where I get heated. Is remember in the beginning of the podcast we talked about how something started as one thing, but then by the end it painted the entire community as that thing. That's why I can't think straight sometimes thinking about it. I get angry because that is true manipulation. That is, if this person were to write 3 or 4 more articles like this, that fits as gaslighting. That fits as gaslighting.
Yeah. And I think
Abuse over time.
well, and also the brand of it, and what makes things very toxic or dangerous, or however you want to describe it, is that it is sprinkled with some truth.
Right.
And going back to
The best lies are.
yeah, they're sprinkled with truth.
Yeah.
It's like I said about this article.
So when you say that, right, when you say the best lies are sprinkled with truth. So when I call you out on that lie, you just mention the part that's true. And then you ignore everything that was a lie. And then you play that game, and it's basically called a distraction. It's a red herring. That's another logic, thing, is it pulls the conversation. So let's say I just called you out on lie 1, 2, and 3, but you had a truth 4. So you decided, all those things you just said, by the way, this truth number 4 is all we're going to talk about. And then that is how manipulators get away with this kind of shit.
Or even false correlations. Like,
Yeah.
no, that does not mean this. It's
Yeah.
like maybe in a different light it could, but in this right here, no.
Comparing
it doesn't
me
mean
to
that.
my grandfather,
Yeah, there you go.
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I don't care.
But the fact is, that was your grandfather, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like,
So?
what are we doing here?
So
And
what?
no, and it's
What about my great grandfather? What about Genghis Khan, who's probably my oldest ancestor? Are we going to talk about him?
So-
What about him? What about your greatest ancestor? Let's go
Well-
down that lineage.
well, but I mean more immediately, and where people can relate.
Right.
Let's keep it reasonable. It's like,
No, there's
are
no
you the-
reasonable. There's no reasonable. I don't care if my dad did something.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like I want to put people in the position of you don't even have to go that far back. What if your brother, insert the relative, or someone close to you that you love, did something very unfortunate? It's not right to judge you off of the act of someone else. It's very easy to, you don't have to go down historical ancestry, right? It's like just hold that right there and use that equation.
Here's where critical thinking can benefit you, though, when you think about this, and why I go to absurd examples sometimes, is when you think about ironic or absurd examples, it brings people who maybe don't have the time or energy to study how to critically think. It'll at least reason them into the right place, right? So let's say that, so in this article, there was some comparison to, Henry Huron's grandfather, right? Whatever, Helio. So let's say you accuse my grandfather of something not great, right? Let's say you do that right now,
Right.
okay? And I say, well, hey, Jim, I don't have anything to do with my grandfather. He died, many years ago, and I have been living my own life. I'm my own individual.
No, but that was your grandfather, Ben.
Great, okay, that's fine. Who was your grandfather? And by the way, let's go back another 200 years before that. Were you a part of any type of upper class? Did you have money? Were you a part of any Freemasonry? What about, let's go even further back. What mongoloid did we come from? Should we go there? You see how weird this gets? Like, somewhere down the line, somebody's ancestor has done something bad. All right, it doesn't matter.
I like using, man. I think we've mentioned this before. I just, in short, I like using the Game of Thrones analogy of if anyone who's followed that, you come to realize, definitely deep into the first season, if not the second season, that no one's hands are clean.
Right.
No one escapes this ride unscathed.
Right.
Right.
And to persecute somebody for that is already bad. And then when you paint an entire group of people with that persecution,
it's a bad place.
You're a
bad direction
piece
to go.
of shit. I can't say it any better than that. It's just that's just somebody who doesn't care about what they're fighting for.
Without even going that harsh, it shows flawed critical thinking, or lack of critical thinking, but it's flawed thinking.
Well,
it's flawed thinking because, instead of saying that they are a piece of garbage or whatever, but I'm sure their daughter thinks they're the bee's knees, the apple pie. And,
whenever I say that, Jim, I think people need to hear this. Whenever I say somebody is a whatever, I'm only talking about myself. I'm only talking about to me. That's who they are to me.
Right.
Right. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make, though. That person who wrote this article, to me, I don't want anything to do with. I don't care what they do. You're dead to me. But at the same time, if somebody else wants to support it and think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, hey, great. That's fine. No big deal. We can have a relationship too, but I won't agree with you. We can still be friends. It's all good.
But it comes back to, okay, let's say the author of the article, right? Let's say one day you did get to have that conversation. Then it goes back to what we're talking about. And they say, and what if through that discussion, you had the ability to make that author think, you know what, Ben, you're right. I was in a bad place that weekend. Just got in an argument.
And you were a piece of shit. Now you're not a piece of shit to me.
Right. So it goes back to what you were stating earlier, right? It's the ability
to change your mind.
I
can change my mind.
Right.
Look, I say this all the time, and I say this, nobody get crazy by me saying this, but look, some days I'm racist. Some days I'm not a good person. Some days I do some stupid shit. I'm a fallible human being. I make mistakes. I have flaws. Some days, I didn't treat the barista at the Starbucks as good as I should have, and I want to be better, right? I try to be better the next day. But that, if you want to judge me on that interaction, we talked before the podcast. I said some racial stuff towards somebody who said some racial stuff to me at a drive-through, right? We confronted each other. The guy looked at me. He was like, you know what, man, I didn't mean that. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I didn't mean that either. It was stupid. Why did we say these? It was a Hispanic male, and I'm an Asian male. Are we racists because we said some racial epithets towards each other at a drive-through because we were both being stupid? No, man. The guy's not a racist. I didn't paint him as a racist. He called me something first. I called him something after that. We didn't really shake hands and hug it out, but we just said, look, man, it's not worth any issues. It's just I was heated. I didn't get my taco and whatever. My hot sauce was missing. Who cares? I don't remember what happened. This is many years ago. But I just remember this interaction because if you judged me on my character on that day, I didn't look good. Okay, I looked like a bad person that day. I admit it. I have flaws. I fucked up that day.
But it would be unfair
to paint
use
me.
Use that one instance, that one moment in time, and paint your entire being.
And I give people that benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. My problem is, this is another flaw of mine, is when I see people trying to manipulate in their favor and try to bully, critical thinking leaves my mind too. It's like I got to get tribal and emotional because I'm like, you treating somebody unfair right now. And I have this thing against bullies that obviously you probably know about by now. I can't help myself. If I see somebody getting bullied, maybe it had something to do with me being a bully when I was younger and I was also bullied. I just stand right up. I'm like, you know what? This is not happening right now. And I felt that this was a bit of a bullying type of thing. And that's why I want to educate everybody on critical thinking. It takes humility. It takes vulnerability. I don't mind being embarrassed, right? Like there's a sense of embarrassment that like you kind of have when you're really young. I remember having it, when I was a teenager in my 20s. I was like, I don't want people to think about me in a negative light. You know what I say now? I don't give up. I don't care. You want to try to embarrass me? Go ahead. What I'm bald. I'm short. Whatever. What are you gonna say? I messed this up the other day. I did this wrong. What are you gonna say? Like, honestly. So that maybe had something to do with my maturity as an adult. But when I lost my sense of embarrassment, my critical thinking went through the roof because a sense of humility kind of hit me. It was like, I'm not the shit. I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread. I can be wrong, right? When you do that, you also give other people the benefit of the doubt of being wrong, right? And I should give this author the benefit of the doubt of, retracting. And I did. I tried. I reached out and I said, look, you should retract this. I think it's not great. I was attacked by hundreds of, not hundreds, like tens of her followers. And I may have just left it there and that's it. But, that I guess there's really nothing more to say about this. It's just
just bringing it back and identifying the elements of critical thinking. And I think with that we have humility,
logic.
I would say in there I think it
ability
gets
to change your mind.
The ability to change your mind, which we talked about on a previous podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that gets lost in the sauce is empathy.
Yep.
I think when someone is especially overtly empathetic.
Yeah.
There you go. I knew it didn't sound right. Empathetic. That it in today's society it seems to get. It has a stigma as weakness, right? But I think once you start maturing, you realize, no, it's who we are. It's part of humanity. It's okay to be empathetic towards something, but just because you're empathetic doesn't mean you're giving people a pass to be any way they want. And here lies what we're talking about: the ability to be nuanced, the ability to understand that some things are the opposite things at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think once
I don't think things should be guided by empathy, by the way, Jim. I think empathy is a cognitive empathy is a good tool to for like a
manipulator, right?
Yeah, it can't
Exactly.
I was going to say it's a good tool for somebody who's in a position where you have to understand emotion and nuance, like a judge. Maybe you need to be a little bit empathetic because the law is, it's rubbery, right? It can be bent.
We try to, and then that's the whole struggle. And
but what you said was even more important, Jim. What you said about empathy in the wrong hands is a manipulator,
right? But what all of this, what is the one key ingredient for all of this is a sense of self-awareness. Sense of self-awareness. Yeah. And everyone has a different, level of right and wrong. Some people think this way, other people think that way. But it's the ability to have this self-awareness to constantly critique your own self-awareness.
Yeah, self-reflection is what you're trying to do.
Self-reflection, yeah. Well, both, right? And I think once there's at least an acceptance, you don't have to be some sort of ninja master, because we're all at different levels of different things.
The important thing is you don't have to be perfect every day. If today you can change your mind or accept another opinion just a little bit, that's fine.
Or how about this? Or just accepting that you're not perfect,
right? And
not beating yourself up on all the mistakes you make, but not really necessarily just like you're saying, right. I'm the shit. I'm the best. I'm infallible.
Right.
Not being on.
Like
that
I
side
can
of the
say
coin
good
either.
things about this article. One of the good things is that I think it does bring light to. There are pockets of the jiu-jitsu community that have done things that are not good.
Yeah.
Now, if you're using that in isolation to highlight that specific incident, isolated incidents, I'm 100% on board. I support, whatever you're saying. I think, those things need to have consequences, but you cannot paint the entire community
Broad stroking.
even once. Okay,
Yeah.
if you do it even once, I go crazy.
Time to self-reflect.
Yes, because I am now lumped into a group that I did not willingly accept as my group. I did not accept that the martial arts community is all far-right extremists. I'm not saying that the author said that implicitly, but let's not be further manipulators here.
Right.
All right. This is, if you don't make that distinction in the article, it is implied. All right. Let's not beat around the bush.
Let's not
here,
play games
all right?
here.
We're playing games. Don't play games. All right. If I say X, Y, and Z, and it all points to A, you don't get to say, well, I never said A. I never said that. That's bullshit, man. That's that is essentially, like I said earlier, right? People misuse the term gaslighting. Gaslighting is basically like what I just described, done over time and abusive. So if this person were to write 3 more articles, they're a gaslighter, right? What gaslighting isn't is just like, saying something that isn't true, being a liar. That's not gaslighting. It's just being a liar or being manipulator.
Well, it's making someone feel less than, or jump into a conclusion that's unflattering towards someone.
You're talking about what is this?
Gaslighting.
Yes.
It's like making someone feel that bad things
Some
are their
things
fault.
didn't happen.
Right.
That happened that didn't happen. And this is the key here, though, is that it's something that happens over time. It's not like one. And so I cannot classify this author or this article as a gaslighting article, or the author as a gaslighter
not knowing their body of work.
Right. But I have kind of, tried to get some answers, and what's funny is that the author said about what is it, Henner? Not what was Henner's I guess response to something?
Oh yeah, and it's they basically says that,
what was it?
In light of the family's history of all this, and his simple responses, they have nothing to do with Gracie University, and this is not a place for political debate.
So the then that was painted as it was a no comment, right?
Yeah.
You know what this author has said after I've multiple times tried to reach out to get some clarifications and comments? No comment. For real, no comment. Like no comment.
Yeah.
As in hide behind the keyboard and let your minions attack me.
So that leads me to think they have a good handle on nuance, because they went all that way, and they framed it in a way to imply that it was something bad, that he did not have anything to say about that in particular. I'm like, that's fair, but why are you it's almost like when you're in a discussion with someone and they say something a certain way. It's like, man, why'd you say it like that? Because
I call that out right away, because that's ego behavior to me. It's like when you
well, it's manipulation.
Yeah.
It's like I want to jab you. I'm going to say something. Like I was messing with my friend a while ago.
You've done that to me a couple times.
Oh,
Jim.
dude, I live in that realm. It's like I do it.
I
all
call
the time
you out
with my
for
friends.
it. I call you out for it.
But that's my charm. I talk trash to my friends.
But I know you, and your intention is not like to put you here and put me here.
No, I'm having fun.
You're having fun.
The moment a friend of mine, I only do that with my friends.
This happens all the time, Jim.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, so no. I only say that to people I care about.
Yes.
The moment that one of my friends say that, Jim, don't say that anymore, dude. I don't like it. We're done. Okay, cool. Because you're my friend. That is not my intent.
Right.
And when you speak a certain way, intent is key.
People on the
rules.
internet that they're not thinking like you. What they're thinking about, the people behind their keyboards crapping on entire communities of people, and Henner and Huron trying to do a good thing, and they're painting it out to be some kind of evil thing. They're not doing it like what you're doing. They're not trying to talk to their friends. They're doing it in a way where it's more like you're either with us or you're against us type of thinking.
There you go.
Or,
on or off.
Or if you say, hey, look, this is incorrect, maybe you want to stop that type of behavior, they will double down on it and ignore the things that you've said that they can't counter, but take on the things that you didn't say that you can counter, that's another part of critical thinking that is called a straw man argument. If you say, hey, Ben, remember that one time you said that you know, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is inferior to sport Jiu-Jitsu. Let's just make up an example.
Sure.
Right? That's a straw man argument because I never said that. But that happens on the internet like every 15 seconds. Every second it happens.
Well, no, you emphasize competition jiu-jitsu at your academy, so that is what you're saying.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're doubling down on the straw man, but that's fine.
But that's how it works.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like.
I could say something in class like, "Hey guys, we're a competition, more focused toward competition."
Oh, you hate self-defense? It doesn't work?
Didn't say that, but that's a straw man. But it is. But if I didn't understand critical thinking, I could now take what you just said, and now I'm in your world. Does that make sense? Like, say what you just said to me again.
Oh, so you don't believe in self-defense? That's what you're saying.
Well, self-defense is still very important, but we don't really. You're right. I don't like self-defense. I think self-defense is not that good, actually. You see how I've just played into your world now? I have now I have to double down on something I did not even agree with in the first place. But since you're coming at me, my ego is like, you know what? I'm not going to be proven wrong here. I have now taken on a position that I didn't even agree with. I've now, you have manipulated me essentially. And this is so easy to happen, right? What should happen is when you say, hey, Ben, you're saying you don't, you think self-defense is garbage? Whoa, hold on, Jim. I didn't say that at all. That's a straw man argument. You said that. I said that our primary focus in this academy is sport jiu-jitsu. We respect self-defense. We even teach self-defense, but it is not the primary focus of our academy. Do you understand the difference? You understand the difference, but you can see how we had two different conversations.
Well, that's exactly, and I think that is that's a very good way to address that. It's like calmly recognizing what's going on. No, I didn't say that. Listen again, and
many people will miss that initial sleight of hand. That initial sleight of hand is kind of the first sleight of hand in this article was the headline. The second sleight of hand was connecting A to B when A and it's not even A and B. It's A and
it's like non sequiturs.
A and F. Somehow connected.
The only connection is the last name, man. In the bloodline. But other than that, as far as philosophy and political stances, I mean, even when they said this is not a place for political debate, you still lumped it in there. Like, oh, well, that's...
Yeah, there are contradictions in the article. I don't like to attack things in that manner because I feel like that's kind of a manipulative critique. I don't really care about contradictions until they are very important and must be addressed. I would rather just take on the fact of the matter, straight on, right? You said A. I said A is incorrect. I'm going to show you evidence. And now you have a chance to comment on my evidence. Now, if you don't comment on my evidence, but then you change the subject to something that you do want to comment on that maybe I don't have an answer ready for, or it's just a circular reasoning anyway, another part of logic that people should understand, circular reasoning. That's cognitive bias, actually. I could get led down a path, and many people are led down this path, and some never come back. If I lead you down a path with emotion, right, and you can't think for yourself, you can't think, maybe there's something weird here. What if you just entered a cult? You've essentially entered a cult. And there's so many people online right now that are in cults. They don't even know it. I've been in so many cults myself that I've, all the things we talk about, Jim, all the things we talk about on the podcast, all the things that hopefully help people, these are all things, the reason I have the knowledge is because I've experienced them. I was the worst, victim mentality guy ever. This is why I rail against, having that mindset when you're trying to improve yourself, right? I was the worst, critical thinker ever. I used to think black and white was the only answer. I take the most responsibility on those things, which is why I can see clearer now. I'm not seeing clearly. Nobody's seeing clearly, but I can accept the topic, the dynamics of critical thinking and how they apply to my life and how I make decisions, right? If you understand critical thinking, it's like jiu-jitsu. It can be applied to all things. You apply it to jiu-jitsu, right? You apply it to jiu-jitsu. You apply it to your decision making on relationships. You apply it to your views on politics, on agendas, on changes you want to make, and that's the message. That's the message.
You nailed it. So that's a beautiful way to wrap it up and close it up. The jiu-jitsu method. It is it's applicable everywhere because.
Can I give one recommendation, Jim?
Sure.
There are not people always ask this, right? But what is the best resource if you want to get started critical thinking? Man, I wish I had a really good resource, but there is a audio book that I always recommend. It's not the best thing out there. There is nothing best out there, but it is something that is the best we have, right? And it's what it's called it's an Amazon book. I would get the Audible. I think listening to it is good. It saves time. It's called Your Deceptive Mind, a Scientific Guide to Critical Thinking Skills by Steven Novella. So that is a tool that I've actually forced some of my friends to listen to.
Your deceptive mind.
Because they were just thinking so irrationally, unreasonably, that I was like, you know what, we got to start from ground zero. So these are obviously my friends that trusted me, but I couldn't change their mind because they were too emotional, X, Y, and Z. So they trusted me in everything except to change their actual mind on this thing. So I said, all right, if I can't change your mind, I can try to help you think critically, and then you can make your own informed decision. And my goal is never to change your mind. It's always to present the evidence, present what I believe to be the truth, my truth, and hope that you take it and make an informed decision. That's really what journalism should be about. It should be about taking an objective truth and then letting the reader decide what conclusion they want to come to. That's why science is important. Scientific method. Real science. I'm not talking about the way science is talked about today, like believe science. No. This is not science. Science is the purpose of science is to learn something new and to basically to falsify, right? So it's just to learn. It's basically to learn new things. It's not to be used as a big stick or a hammer to confirm what you already know. I think let's just pick a topic. I think
So you like to fall back on science? You like to fall back on science?
Yes, but again, intention is important here.
All right.
Science can be used just like any other tool.
I was just trying to set it up and say, hey, look at everyone. Ben's a part of a cult. He's part of the science cult.
Well, you could say that. You could say that, but I didn't agree with you there. I said that
no. You cut me off at the crossroads.
Science is not infallible either. So just like anything,
there you go.
You are not infallible. Nobody is infallible. Don't worry about embarrassment. People are unable to think critically because if you go against the herd or if you go against your friends, you get pushed out of the in group, right? I don't give a fuck about the in group. Push me out right now. And that sense of just lack of embarrassment, like I don't want to be your friend if you're going to embarrass me, if you think that I care about embarrassment toward you, because you shamed me. I don't care about that.
So you saw real-time adjustment on that question alone. When I asked him if he was part of science, you noticed the thought that went behind it. It's like, hold on. And then, in my attempt to straw man you is, no, you're in a cult. Right? So there was a real-time exchange on something that was unrehearsed or anything. And that's,
I tried to think critically.
Fall back into critical thinking. Yeah. Fall back.
And you're not perfect. You won't think critically on everything. There are certain things you will think emotionally about. There's nothing wrong with that. But do your best. That's it.
So think critically. There you go. It's kind of like golf. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu. It's this ever-evolving thing you will never master. There are no masters out there. There's always room for improvement. There's always a different point of view. And
that's an oxymoron in and of itself.
What's that?
That's an critical thinking is never
mastered.
It really can't be mastered. It's not really like a skill in that sense that there's an end game. It's constantly changing, right?
It's dynamic.
Your thoughts are it's not meant to be used in that. It's not like a level up where you're at level 100 and now you're critical thinker.
Right.
You will get better and better and better and better, but there is nobody thinks about it that way.
Right, man. And these are life lessons that can be learned in jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is one of those things. Like I said, jiu-jitsu, golf, they're just never mastered. There's always
start today, man. Start today. If you guys are listening, our 200 listeners now.
What was that book?
Oh,
what was that book? One more time.
Your Deceptive Mind.
Your Deceptive Mind
by Stephen Novella.
And there it is. I think I might order that book, and then we'll see what's up. See, I can learn anything more about my deceptive mind and the games it plays on me. And
we should do this a little more, Jim, but please like the video.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to the channel.
Smash it.
Follow Jim, Jiu-Jitsu Mag, on Instagram. I am Coach BZ on Instagram.
Hey, shout
out. Our sponsor, BetDSI, use the code JJM for 50% deposit bonus on betdsi.eu, where you can bet on this weekend's Fight to Win on Friday in Miami. I'll be there.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we had a long discussion about critical thinking. We think it's very valuable. It's a very valuable asset to have. And remember, it all starts with self-reflection, self-awareness, criticizing your own stuff.
Accepting the fact that you could be wrong.
And acceptance. Oh, the acceptance.
Acceptance and understanding is what's lacking in this world right now.
There it is. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, and do all those things that the coach asked you to do. And, Coach, thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, man. See you guys.